Join the conversation. Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the internet stream.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. Now, this show is about what matters most in life. Our minds, our thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. And in this show, I'll bring you the latest research about the characteristics in mothers in the way that they are in their marriage or cohabiting that passes on to their children. That's interesting. We'll have the latest research on that. And then we're going to talk to Maureen Healy, the author of The Emotionally Healthy Child. And then after that, we'll talk to Eileen Manoukian, who's a founder of GEM Educare. You can also call us anytime during the show if you like. The studio line, 951-922-3532. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the latest research.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
So a new national study done in the Ohio State University, published November 13, 2018, just a couple days ago, in PLOS ONE, shows that people whose mothers had more partners married or cohabitating often follow the same path. Now, results suggested that mothers may pass on personality traits and relationship skills that make their children more or less likely to form stable relationships. The results suggested that mothers may have certain characteristics that make them more or less desirable on the marriage market and better or worse at relationships. Now, children inherit and learn those skills and behaviors and may take them into their own relationships. While a lot of research has found that children of divorce are also more likely to divorce, this new study broadens the picture. It's not just divorce now. Many children are seeing their parents of divorce start new cohabitating relationships and having those end as well. All of these relationships can also influence children's outcomes. Now, the data came from a national longitudinal survey of youth in 1979 and the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, Child, and Young Adult. Both surveys have followed the same participants for at least 24 years. Now, all the people in the survey were the biological children of the women, of their mothers, so the researchers could get a long-term look at the number of partners for people in both generations. The surveys included information on not just marriage and divorce, but also cohabitating relationships and dissolutions of those relationships. The surveys are run by Ohio State Center of Human Resource Research. Now, the study included 7,152 people. Both the number of marriages and the number of cohabitating partners by mothers had similar effects on how many partners their children had. However, results showed that siblings exposed to their mother cohabitation for a longer period had more partners than their sibling exposed to less cohabitation. You may see cohabitation as an attractive, lower commitment type of relationship if you've seen your mother in such a relationship for a longer time. So that may lead more partners, since cohabitating relationships are more likely to break up. Now, the study discussed 3 theories about why children tend to follow their mothers in terms of the number of relationships. One theory has been that many people dissolve relationships because of the economic instability associated with the divorce and cohabitation dissolution. One partner's income is usually lost, so economic hardship can lead to poorer child outcomes and more difficult transition to adulthood, leading to more unstable partnerships in adulthood. While economic instability was indeed related to the number of partners a person had, controlling for economic factors in the study did not significantly reduce the mother-child link and the number of partners. So this means money problems were likely not the main reason behind why many people followed the path of their mothers when it came to relationships. A second theory suggested that the actual experience of observing your mother going through a divorce or a breaking up, a cohabitation, or multiple breakups leads children to have more partners themselves. According to this theory, an older half-sibling who saw his or her mother go through multiple partners should be more at risk than a younger half-sibling who wasn't exposed to as many partners. But this wasn't the case either. Now, a sibling who experienced his or her mother moving from relationship to relationship did not have statistically greater number of partners compared to a sibling who did not experience instability. So what does explain why mothers and their children share partnering trends? This study results suggested that the mothers may pass on their marriageable characteristics and relationship skills to their children for better or worse. So it could be that mothers have more partners, don't have greater relational skills, or don't deal with conflict well, or have mental health problems. So each one of those, which can undermine our relationships and lead to instability. Whatever the exact mechanism, they may pass these characteristics onto their children, making their children relationships less stable. It could also be, now I'm talking, not the research, it could also be that there's a belief system about the marriage or relationship, which that is also passed on, because the beliefs and the way that, the vision of a person about relationship and how relationships should be, whether they don't trust their partners or when they get angry, how they behave, and those skills are part of what a child is grown with and sees that. So the beliefs and the skills are like a natural space that the child lives in. And obviously that becomes natural for them, that way of believing and that way of existing. I've worked with people who they said they're never going to do what their parent did because maybe they suffered or they were in pain. However, when it became their turn to have a relationship, you would actually see exactly the same trends of subconscious belief systems that showed up, although consciously many of them promised themselves that they wouldn't. I've seen that also with addictions, where people who have lived and been raised in families who have been an addict, they've promised themselves, never, never, I've gone through so much pain that this is never going to be something I will. And then, by teenagers or young adult, they will gravitate toward the same thing and utilize drugs and alcohol as a numbing skill, because that's pretty much all they've seen in life. So when it gets hard, naturally our brain goes back to what is natural coping mechanism that we've watched and seen our parents do and the environment we live in. So as if there wasn't enough pressure on mothers and parents with their children, guess what? This is also the next level that you have to see, that you are a role model for your next generation when it comes to relational skills. Today, we're actually going to talk to two people who are going to talk about parenting and how to be with children. So we'll be right back with Maureen Healy, who's the author of The Emotionally Healthy Child.
You see.
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
And now, back to Inner Voice.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I have Maureen Healy, who's an author of The Emotionally Healthy Child and also her last book, Growing Happy Kids. With me, she won the Nautilus and Reader's Favorite Books Award in 2014, a popular Psychology Today blogger and sought-after public speaker. Maureen runs a global mentoring program for elementary-age children and works with parents and their children in her busy private practice. Now, her expertise in social and emotional learning has taken her all over the world, including working with Tibetan refugee children and the base of the Himalayas in northern India to classrooms in Northern California. You can get her on www.growinghappykids.com. Welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
It is so nice to have you. I've been going through your book, and I'm really enjoying it. We do pilot studies in daycare and childcare, and right now also at Crete Charter School. So It was really exciting to see your model, to also introduce it to our audience. So you talk about emotionally healthy child. So let's first just define emotionally healthy child. What does that mean?
Well, it's a complicated topic. So I think the easiest thing to do is just to start at the beginning. So the start of emotional health for children is helping them learn to identify, name their emotions, and express them constructively. So that's where it begins.
Okay. So let's talk about the emotions that a child has. How do you name them? And then how do you constructively let them do that? So they have an action, have a reaction. They show something in their body, right? How do you teach them in the way that they can actually name their emotions? And then depending on the emotion, what type of an expression would you keep letting them know in how to have and teach them how to express?
That's a good question. I mean, it certainly is very different. It depends if you have a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old. But if we take the example of, say, a 6-year-old, and he was angry and regularly pushed kids on the playground. So you want to help him sort of interrupt that pattern, create self-awareness so that he could realize that he had choice at that point. So he could catch himself. Because in the book I talk about there's 3 steps. And I go into a depth on them, but it's learning how to catch yourself, learning how to stop and calm, and then learning how to make a smarter choice, good for you and good for others. So obviously the kid who's pushing kids on the playground, a smarter choice could be to walk away, talk to a teacher, a whole bunch of things. So it's learning that process is where emotional health begins.
Okay. And you also talk about developing healthy habits, in a sense, right? And how do you, what kind of habits would you request for the child to develop?
Well, it always begins with the parents or the adults in the area. So, the parents at home. So, for example, I might develop, I think the biggest thing is mindfulness or self-awareness. So children really need to learn how to relax and to calm. Because even if they're overexcited or if they're angry or sad, the point is that we make our best decisions when we're using our right and our left brain together and when we're calm. So tools of calmness. So exercise, of whether it's breathing exercises, whether it's, I have a tool in the book called Hand on the Heart, where the child puts his hand on her heart, every night as they're relaxing before they go to bed to sort of calm and center and get, connected to their body. And then when, say, they're at school and they're really nervous, they're about to take a test and they're anxious, they can put their hand on their heart and that can bring them back to calmness. So it's giving them tools or habits that they can use on their own.
Great. Now you have, in your book, I'm showing it to people, you also talk about the challenges of childhood. Like one is like they have lack of experience, they have lack of knowledge, they have lack of choice. They have incorrect perceptions and they have lack of logic. And this is for the parents to have an understanding of what their expectation is from their children and how to connect with their kids, with their children in that way. Can you say a bit more about how can, because obviously when children are getting activated, somehow most of the parents also get activated. So I guess some of the things you're asking for the parents to do for the kids, you're also asking them for themselves to do. And then for them to really realize what stages their kids are and their children are and how to direct them in that space. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, sure. The one big piece of feedback I get from this book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, is, forget my kids, this is what I need. So you're right. The same tools that work for children are the tools that work for us as adults or parents or teachers or professionals. But I think that sometimes we forget because sometimes our children, even though they're small, they seem so wise on certain ideas. We have this expectation, oh, he's 5, he's 6, he can do this. But our brain isn't fully formed till 26 or mid-20s. And of course, it can always change. But, sometimes we forget that they are young. They're very innocent. They do have that lack of experience. They often put things together. Like I had a child client that said, what did my grandmother do wrong when she died? I'm like, she did nothing wrong. She didn't realize that's not how life necessarily works. So helping them form ideas that are skillful and learn how emotions work and what they can do with them not only is role modeling, but it's actually teaching them ideas of how emotions work. And then you give them some tools. And listen, everyone wants to feel better. Everyone wants to be happier. So they want to use the tools. They just don't have them yet.
And you also talk about mindset and that mindset plus the healthy habits creates the emotional health. So say more about mindset.
Well, yeah, mindset became, we started talking about mindset. We've been talking about mindset for a long time, but, the idea of the emotionally healthy mindset, it is that part of it is that growth mindset. But if we think of emotional health as the skill of balance, and then, life often throws us off balance, whether it's a flat tire or for a child, it's, being teased on the playground. But learning how to get back into balance and learning how to calm and center and make those better choices, even if you're angry or sad or whatever emotion it is important. So learning how to create a mindset of emotional health and stability is, it's a sophisticated topic and I go into it in the book, but it's possible for nearly everyone.
So you talk about off balance being someone who is reactive, who's isolated themselves, who shuts down. And on the other side, a healthy balance in the process of learning is learning how to respond immediately, but in a healthy way, and get triggered, but not necessarily have to display that trigger, and kind of see what it is, you regulate yourself and then act. And then your optimum balance, as you talk about in page 47, is how to be responsive, how learn to be calm and centered, even in the most challenging times, and make choices from a calmer place. So the skill of balance is something that you're requesting for the parents, not only to do it themselves, but also to begin teaching it to their children and then creating it from that space.
Right. Well, it can be off balance is a lot of different things. It could be off balance in sadness. It could be off balance in anger. It could be off balance in jealousy. Emotions that are just throwing you off balance. And then coming back into the balance and learning how to do that. It's not about perfection, but it's process and habits and forming that mindset and developing a good character and raising someone who has emotional health, has someone who's honest. So it's a sophisticated topic, but if we break it down to the idea of balance, it sort of simplifies it. It helps us realize, like, yeah, they were off balance. They were angry. They were sad. They were jealous. They felt left out. They were frustrated. That how do we bring them back to center? Because at the core of each of us, there is that calmness. There is that centeredness. There is that peace. So if we can learn how to touch that place and make choices from that place, we have better results.
Wonderful. And you also talk about the goal that you have about teaching the child in how to look at, you have 7 ideas that children need to learn, right? We're going to talk about them. Emotions are temporary. Inside of you at the center is a joy and a natural state. There are different types of emotion. Mixed emotions are common. All emotions are useful. You can learn how to increase certain emotions and reduce others, and no one can do it for you.
Yeah, they're all sophisticated ideas. So just as an example, let's take the idea, and this is from my book, The Emotionally Healthy Child. So if you want to dive deeper into it, it's in the book, and also the audio book if you're not a reader, which is totally cool. But
yeah, me too. I'm not a reader. I'm just much better with an audio. I can understand when people want to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So think of the idea of even just, when I work with children, and I work with parents and children all over the world. So when I work with them, oftentimes I'll go to a child, say that was really angry and, made a choice that wasn't so smart. And I'll say, how big was the anger? Was it like itty bitty or was it gigantic? They'll say, oh, it was huge. I said, did you feel like it was bigger than you? And they're like, absolutely. So they don't recognize that they're actually bigger than their emotion. So if they don't have the correct understanding of the size of the emotion and their relationship to emotions, there's no way that they'll ever be able to learn how to manage it or express it constructively. So the ideas in the book are aimed to give parents and teachers and adults the ideas that not only they need to know, but they when they can explain them in child-appropriate language, a child will understand it and be able to have that aha and be able to learn how to have some self-control and to make better choices.
And you say that children can learn how to use any of their experiences and turn them into an emotional healthy state. How do you teach them to take any of their experiences and shift them into a positive emotional space?
Well, I'm not sure if I would say you can take any experience and make it into a positive emotional state, but I would say that you can use any experience as fodder for emotional health. So there can be anything that you can use. The experience doesn't have to be wasted. So if you're having a crummy day, it's a crummy day. If you feel sad and depressed, you're sad and depressed that day. But the point is not to pitch tent and set up camp in the sadness. It's like, let's feel it. Let's express it. Let's find an outlet for it. And then let's use whatever we can learn from that experience to use that energy to move us forward. So say someone failed an exam and they were devastated. The point is that they can learn from that. How can I study in a better way? How can I do this differently? You want them to be able to learn from any experience, even the hardest experience, even if it's the loss of a pet or a family member. I mean, there's any experience we can learn from it. So that's the goal of how to take these experiences that are so hard. I mean, I live in California. We have all these devastating fires and we have we've had a mudslide not far from my home. So, I mean, these things, children have to learn how to process and use it for their good.
How are you with the fire and everything's going on? Are you guys okay?
I'm okay. It's north and south of me, so I'm okay. But
you're right in the middle.
Right. But, you know, I mean, we see this. I work with lots of kids. I mean, I was in New York City during 9/11. I work with kids after that event. And so, you know, it's, even though they're small, they're not stupid. You know, they still have these deep emotions that they need to learn how to constructively express and not to be afraid of them. I think what I would say, the emotionally unhealthy child suppresses their feelings, ignores their feelings, makes careless choices. So that's what we want to avoid.
When you talk about going around the world and working with children around the world, what is the difference that you actually see in the parenting styles that are in the United States or areas of the United States versus, for example, Tibet or India or anywhere else that you work with the children? What are your different types of experiences that has also led to your book and, brought the wisdom into this book?
I would say, you know, every parent wants their children to be happy. We just do it in different ways. And I would say, you know, if I thought about, Eastern wisdom or people from the East, you know, for example, Tibetans, the first thing they do when they bring a baby home from the hospital is they show it the altar in the house. And they say, you'll need this more than you need me. This is your first introduction, you know, before a christening, before anything else. So they have a different sort of focus, I would say, more inward focus. And then, like, for example, when I went to San Miguel, Mexico this year, you know, they don't have strollers. Everyone holds their children. They just hold them. There's just a different methodology in different places. It's not right or wrong or good or bad. It's just different. I mean, in the United States, we're more of a melting pot, which is a beautiful thing. We have an incredible tapestry of everyone from around the world. So it's just, in other places, they have more one culture. But I guess that I would say is that, you know, the more we focus on keeping our own emotional health and, you know, feelings in check and knowing that we're a role model, because kids don't miss a beat. They see it all, you know, and we don't have to be perfect, but the more we do our best and we're honest with children, even if we make mistakes and we have to repair those mistakes, I think, and it's helpful for children because they see that life isn't about perfection. It's about, you know, you want to do your best and let go of the rest. And you know, we each do that in our own way, but having that authentic, vulnerable, honest connection really does help with emotional health.
And do you find this concept of expressing emotions about children and how that the parents handle the expression of emotions different from the Western cultures to the Eastern cultures?
Well, I think sometimes in the West, we want to be perfect and we overschedule our children, and people are very concerned with how does something look, you know, and I'm not saying that's bad or good, but I think the healthiest thing is you have to do the right thing for your child. So I do a lot of consultations with parents and they say, I want to do X, but everyone in my family says I should be Y. I said, well, you're the mom. You have good instincts. You know, like sometimes it's hard for us. We need the support to make the choices that are right for our child. And, you know, everyone has a different opinion. So I think that, you know, the more informed we are, you know, usually the one who has the most knowledge wins. So you want to really learn from people who have been there and done that. And even though it is hard to grow up in the Instagram, you know, devices age where children's pictures are everywhere, I think the upside of that is that, you know, we also have more access to how to be emotionally healthy and happier. So people can connect with experts and things like that online. So that's a really good thing.
Yes. We're talking with Maureen Healy, the author of The Emotionally Healthy Child. Maureen, when you look at recently, as I work with children and families, I find younger children are getting much more anxious than before. You know, I've been a therapist for about 28 years, and I've worked with families for a long time. And it just seems like anxiety is creeping in much on a younger age, and the things that they have to actually deal with at a school. I had a client with this family who came in, and he's only like 10 or 11, and their family literally is talking about how to handle going out and dealing with, shooting in school and pornography that comes through the devices that their friends show each other on their, smartphone, or drugs that are creeping in everywhere. And these are the conversations that our very young children are dealing with. So when you are talking to parents and to deal with the emotional, the healthy emotions of their children and how to deal with that in this era, what are your suggestions?
Well, I think there's a lot of things going on. I think one thing is I do have a specialty with highly sensitive children, and our children are more and more sensitive these days. So I'm not sure if they're more anxious than they are. I just think children are much more sensitive. 20, 30 years ago, there were still terrible things happening, but with the advent of media, we can see it instantly. And that's really hard. And having the devices, that's really hard on a lot of kids. So, and then I did participate in a survey. They said the number one fear of children is school shootings. So that's, like you said, totally new. I didn't think about that when I was a child. So I think you need to take each subject individually. I think you need to be a good mentor to your children, but I think you need to be honest with them. So for the example of devices, I would say we mentor, we don't monitor. We help them make smart choices so they can make smart choices in real life, and then they can make smart choices online. And we all do it sometimes. We use the TV as a babysitter, but we have to make sure we know what children are watching and what they're engaging in, because it is a scary online place sometimes. So we need to help them make those good choices and not give out their information and all these different things. So, I think you need to be honest, but you need to be educated on each particular issue, and you need to really find out what's the best thing to do and then do that.
Wonderful. What is it that you want people to gain from the parents and people to gain from your book? What is the one message that you're really wanting them to get?
Well, I want people to know that emotional health is a skill of balance, and it's something you can learn. You're not just born with it. You don't either have it or you don't have it. It's like going to the gym, you build muscles. You can build emotional health for yourself and for your child and children. So from my perspective, I get questions from parents. Is it too late? Have I screwed them up completely? I get all sorts of questions. I say, no, this is something that you can do. You can always begin again, and you can do your best in every moment that leads to the next best moment. So from my perspective, why I wrote The Emotionally Healthy Child is to give people the ideas and tools to do that, so that not everyone has to go to these foreign countries and sit on mats and learn with teachers. We don't have that kind of time. So I've condensed it so that it's useful and practical.
Wonderful. Where can they find you?
Growinghappykids.com is my website.
And how do you get your, how can people do coaching with you? Still go to the same website?
Same website. They can send me a message and we can work something out for sure.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for being on my show. And it was great talking to you. And thank you for introducing everyone to Emotionally Healthy Child.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
And everyone, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Eileen Manoukian, the founder of GEM Educare.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Well, welcome back. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Eileen Manoukian with us on line. We're trying to get her face here with us too, but at this point we're having some difficulty with the Skype, but we'll definitely have her voice. Eileen, are you there?
Yes. Good
afternoon. Well, Eileen Manoukian is a doctorate candidate who is the founder of Gem Educare, and this is the first daycare and childcare facility that has been created in the California, and which has a unique design. So I wanted her to be here and discuss the design, which has the awareness integration model included in child play-based learning, and created a very, very unique setting for children who are infants all the way to 5 years of age. So tell us about Gem Educare, Eileen.
So Gem Educare, as you mentioned, is a childcare and preschool that actually is the first and only preschool and childcare that uses awareness integration model as its blueprint. What we do is we have a play-based, experiment-based, discovery-based setting that we work on children's emotional intelligence. We teach them how to be with their feelings, how to distinguish their feelings, how to be aware of what is happening in their body when they are feeling something, and how to distinguish their thoughts, and also distinguish the behavior that comes out of these thoughts or feelings and the outcome of their behavior. When they, for example, hit somebody else, what happens? Why do they hit? What were they thinking? What were their feelings? And what is the impact of that behavior? So that's what we do, but we do it on a play-based, discovery-based, experiment-based setting. That what it means is children are free to play with specific toys that we put a lot of effort in researching and finding out which toy is best for their development in different areas, and we allow them to discover everything by themselves. They are very bright, they are very focused. The combination of awareness integration model with this method of teaching helps them focus more than the children their age do. I'll give you an example. I have a 1-year-old who plays with the same toy for about half an hour. That's
wow.
long, yes. And he discovers everything about that toy. Through playing and through distinguishing their feelings, thoughts, emotions, behavior, the impact of their behavior, they learn everything they need even faster without putting any pressure on their brain, any unnecessary pressure on their brains. They have a growing brain, so we try to nurture their brain.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I created an awareness integration model, I created as obviously a therapeutic model, which when people came to the office at age 20, 30s, or even a little bit younger than that or older, what we found many times was what was caught for them in their system are a lot of little or large traumas, but a lot of little traumas where they experienced an experience and they held on to it and made a lot of beliefs, some negative, some positive, and some just the belief would maybe appropriate for one situation, but they generalized it to their whole life. And that's how people got very limited and held on to many of their emotion, and they allowed their past and their emotions and their old beliefs to run them. And they weren't necessarily in a present moment where they could access or assess everything that was happening for them to move forward in an appropriate way. And I know that when you and I had spoken was how can we bring this into a proactive model where if, as a philosophical concept and as a practical concept, that the children would be learning how on details of how to be aware of themselves. And that awareness could create something that it would bring them into the present moment at every point and then teach them the skills they needed. And it's like how to combine this type of an awareness and emotional regulation to the learning facts that kids need to learn, math and all the other sciences, and their their different skills that needs to be enhanced. And that's what you've done. You've brought the two together.
Yes, exactly. That's what we do, and it actually gives amazing results in a very short period of time. Even children who have been diagnosed globally developmentally behind, they show signs that is astronomical. In a month and a half, a child who couldn't even walk is putting her shoes on, taking them off. Today she was playing with other kids, throwing them balls. It helps them regulate their emotions. So the emotions don't come out as a tantrum. They know how to handle their emotions. They're not scared of their emotions. They are not overacting their emotions. When the emotion comes out, they know how to deal with it and how to go with it, how to experience it instead of either suppressing it or turning it into crying or screaming or yelling or any other expression that we do. And they are very calm and happy kids. We don't have any heating, pushing, pulling, very minimal. If it happens, it's very, very minimal. No crying. Whoever comes is amazed how caring and compassionate these kids are because they understand it.
Right. And interestingly enough, when they are activated emotionally and they get completely engrossed with their emotion, it takes them away from the external world. They are so consumed with internally having to calm themselves that they are no longer kind of paying attention to the external world. So it seems like the learning capacities really gets higher when a child has the ability to take care of their emotion as soon as possible, not to shove it aside, not to repress it, not to necessarily just sit in it, but to learn how to handle it and release it and be complete with it so that they can bring themselves back to the external world and deal with the world, which is the learning capacity. If they are at school, if they are with their friends, if they are with their parents, children consistently are learning from the external world and, making decisions about who they are, who the world is, and just learning skills. And when they are constantly just dealing with the internal process of whether it's, they're angry, they're sad, they're anxious, any of those, that they lose the capacity to be out here and picking up information clearly and being able to utilize it or focus on it. So their attentiveness goes away. They don't feel like even they're in their body, or they don't even feel that they're here paying attention. So, for example, that you said, the child who's 1 year old has the capacity to sit with a toy freely for about half an hour to look at all aspects of it. It also shows in they are so centered in an emotional level that they have the ability just to be with whatever it is outside of them and learn from it and experiment with it and explore it and enjoy it.
Yes, exactly. As you said, the level of joy goes up. Everything becomes a joyous experience, even when they are eating, even the experience of eating the food, what kind of food they are eating, what are they feeling? Is it warm? Is it cold? How is the sensation after eating? Taking a nap. We don't have any non-nappers. Everyone is surprised that we don't have any non-nappers because they look forward to it. Every experience is joyous for them. They look forward to experiencing something new or something that they have experienced doing it before. Everything becomes a discovery. The same toy that yesterday was interesting and they were playing for 15 minutes, today they play 15 minutes in a different way. Now they are discovering a different thing about it. The same chairs they had for 2 months, there is still something to discover about it. Let's put it this way, let's put it that way, and see how it feels now. So yes, everything becomes a joyous and happy experience for them. And they have a lot of sense of self-confidence and pride because they discover everything. And it becomes, as you said, outside and inside becomes kind of yes. So the internal world is not separate from the external world. Their experiences and their feelings and their thoughts are coming together and creating a discovery, creating a world that is very joyous and happy and suitable for them.
They're present. They're present.
Exactly. They don't need to worry about anything. Their cries don't last at all. It's 1 second and then we're done.
Yeah, I know that many of the parents, as I met them, as we were discussing this, they were very, very surprised in the way that their children comes home and the way they're carrying what they have learned and the context of who they are. And the way, the pleasantness, whether they bring even a discipline home, like, washing or bringing their, like a 2-year-old brings their dishes to the sink or has the ability to be responsible for some of the tasks as much as their abilities are. Because part of the awareness integration and what you do with children is bringing the context of responsibility and accountability, where when a child has the ability to use part of their body and brain and to use a skill, then you allow them patiently to explore that skill and have the ability to succeed at that skill and then maintain it by practice, such as if they get to a place where they can hold their bottle on their own and eat, or they can actually use a utensil to eat, or they can, wear their own shoes, any of those skills that they can do patiently, they're allowed to do that on their own, and then encouraged to keep practicing it to just become a master at one skill at a time, as their ability allows them to do. And so the message is you have the ability. So their self-esteem and self-confidence keeps rising and feeling of self-efficiency, of knowing and self-agency, where I know who I am and what I can do. And therefore, there's always this joy about the next thing I can learn, the next thing I can do, and the next thing I can experience.
Yes. You mentioned something that is very interesting, and I have to also talk about this because we as adults think that kids do not understand a lot of things or they can't do. The beauty of this method that we use is that they want to do it. We don't ask them to do it. As soon as they're done eating, they bring their plate to us. When we want to go out, they bring their shoes and they try to put it on. A 1-year-old is already putting their shoes on and taking it out, which is pretty amazing for their parents. We thought that was normal, but for their parents, it was very shocking because a 1-year-old dressing themselves is very interesting for adults. We think they can't, but they do. They can. The thing is that we don't allow them to express themselves enough. We don't, as adults, we think we have to do everything for them. Especially parents feel even guilty if they are not doing everything for their child. They think that they're not being a good parent. But if we allow them to experience everything themselves, allow them to express their feelings, allow them to express their thoughts, then guide them how to manage the thought, the feeling, the behavior, and how to patiently wait until they can do whatever they are trying to do, to discover it for themselves. Then they have the skills for life.
Exactly. I think that it really supports people when they rise this way to their adulthood, because that's how they start excelling. Not only because their self-esteem and self-confidence is higher, they know they're capable, and they know that they can search to whatever it is they don't know, they can search and learn and move forward. And this becomes part of the path to their success and being responsible in what the outcome is, such as if I behave a particular way to my fellow student or peer that is there, then if I am kind to them, what kind of a response do I get back? If I'm angry at them, what kind of a response do I get back? So part of this responsibility and accountability also shows up in the socialization factor, not only skill building in tasks, but also socialization, because we're also teaching them how to be responsible and accountable in a social setting with others.
Yes, very true. They learn socialization before even get to age of 3, which is normally what the age that they need to learn socialization.
Right.
They learn how to wait for their turn. They learn how to deal with each other, how to manage a situation that comes up.
Right. Well, where can they find you? I know that you put a lot of great information online for people. So tell our audience, where can they find you?
They can go to our website. It's www.gemeducare, like education and caring, .com. And they can go to our Facebook or Instagram, which is also in the website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I know that as you have more research and you find new outcomes, that you'll come and join us and let our audience know about your new findings. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. And for all of you, it's been a pleasure to have you today. It's been about parenting and our children and how to be with them with love and acceptance and create joy in their life. So hopefully you also do that to your own inner child, the one inside of you, and to yourself. So not only create that joy for everyone else around you, but also for yourself. So until next week, take great care of yourself and others. Bye.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Check us out online at KMET1490am.com.
News, talk, and sports for the Inland Empire. AM 1490 KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands.
From ABC News, I'm Linda Lopez. 3 are hurt and a suspect is dead in a shooting at Chicago's Mercy Hospital.
Nothing official yet from Chicago police. There are reports the shooting started as a domestic situation outside of the hospital and eventually ended up inside of the hospital. Among the critically injured, a Chicago police officer. This woman was inside of the hospital at the time and was forced to hunker down as police cleared the building.
And we got in the room and cut off all the phones and laid on the floor until the police come and got us out the room.
The hospital has been cleared. Chicago police expected to give an update soon. Ryan Burrow, ABC News, Chicago.
A monster. That's how family members of the victims described Colorado father Chris Watts before he was handed 5 life sentences for the murders of his pregnant wife and 2 small girls.
This is the heartless one, the evil monster. Who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shannon, Bella, Celeste, and Nico? I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them.
Shanann's father, Frank Rusick, says prison is too good for Watts. A senior State Department official who has seen a version of the CIA's report on the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi tells ABC News it's, quote, blindingly obvious that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered him.